Misha and I have known each other for, I don't even know, I lose count at some point, but we just good friends, we're real good friends. And she is one amazing woman. I have to tell y'all that she is incredibly beautiful on the inside and out. And that this was a very difficult task that she's taken on. And we've talked probably 15 times today, and I've just had to keep encouraging her because you can do this because you were created for such a time as this. And so, Misha, I'm very, very proud of you. But most importantly, Daddy's proud of you. And so thank you for your obedience in doing this. And I know that because you are opening up and sharing your innermost being to all of these people, that somebody's going to be redeemed and set free tonight. So, during worship, God told me to share this scripture with you guys. Psalm 31, verse 14 says, I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. So, with that being said, I introduce to you Misha. And thank you so very much for doing this. And I love you so much. Love you.
Taller than the podium. Check. I was really nervous. I didn't know how it was going to work out. I thought when you moved the chair, it was for me to like kneel on. That's a load off. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Tony, for the introduction. This is very, very difficult for me. If Tori would have called me at 8 o'clock this morning and said, hey, I need you to build a church for us to meet at tonight, I think it would have been easier for me to do that than to have to talk about something that's just become really real in my life. Before I get started, I have 3 people that I need to come up, and they're just going to read something, and then I'll pick back up, and we'll move through my talk. So you can come up, no particular order. Thank you, Kiara.
Dear Mama and Daddy, I know you may not understand why I didn't seek help. I don't know if I can really explain why, but this choice makes sense to me. I know I had such a seemingly bright future, and I know I would have been such a successful doctor and wife and mother, but all I have ever desperately wished for is to not feel like not existing would be preferable to being who I am and living the life I live. I love you both so much. Your daughter, Caitlin.
I'm sorry to those who I offended over the years. I'm blind to see that I, as a human being, suck. I'm an individual who is doing an injustice to the world, and it's time for me to leave. Please don't ever feel sorry for me or cry, because I had an opportunity at life, and that opportunity is over. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to love someone or have someone love me. I guess it's best, though, because now I leave no pain onto anyone. The kids in school are right. I am a loser and a freak, and in no way is that acceptable for people to deal with. I'm sorry for not being a person that would make someone proud. I'm free now. XOXO, Carlos.
I love my family with all my heart. I am sorry. I am distressed and in pain. Marianne, I love you.
Thank you, guys. I wanted to share those real life final thoughts, final notes of people who have committed suicide. Suicide is just one of those things. It's one of those unmentionables that's plaguing our society and showing no signs of slowing down. Last year alone, there were numerous celebrity suicides and even more everyday people just like us. In the United States, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. tenth. Think of all the ways that one could perish. And suicide, of all things, is top among them. People between the ages of 15 and 24, suicide is the third leading cause of death. Third. In 2012, there were 110 suicides per day, and that breaks down to one every 13 minutes. In Alabama alone, and this is really scary because this is our world, this is home, suicide rate is increasing. It increased 2% from 14.9% per 100,000 from 12.9 to 14.9% per 100,000 in 1 year. 1 year. And even more alarming than all of that, in Alabama, there were 84 youth suicides last year. And 84 doesn't sound like a lot, but you're talking about 84 children with everything to live for, with everything ahead of them, that felt like there was no other alternative, no other recourse but to end their own lives. Research conducted by the Alabama Suicide Prevention and Resources Coalition listed 5 leading causes of suicide. Serious personal loss, or a number of losses and defeats taken personally. Low self-esteem, social isolation, hopelessness, and finally a history of depression, bipolar disorder, or other mental illnesses. Now for me, suicide became something that I became up close and personal with on May 2nd, 2013. My entire world changed. And from then until now has been one of the darkest valleys I've ever experienced personally in my life. One of my best friends, Alex, a great person, literally one of the most beautiful souls I've ever known, committed suicide. She died on May 2nd, which was 12 days before her 29th birthday, just a few days before Mother's Day, leaving heartbroken family and friends, just grasping for answers, trying to figure out why. But Alex's case was a little bit different. Alex was suffering. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I don't know how many of you know someone who's diagnosed with bipolar disorder, who has truly been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but it is an indescribable pain. It's an ailment just like anything else. It's something that can have you the highest of highs one day, and then your world is falling apart the next day, maybe even later the same day, but you have no control over it. 2 weeks before Alex passed away, her mother went to go to Nashville where she was living to visit her. And they were walking through the farmer's market, and Alex was just talking to her like normal, talking about how pretty the weather was. And she said, that's the problem. The weather's great. I love living in Nashville. I have great friends. I'm close to my family. My work, her art, is the best it has ever been. My love life is stellar, but I'm so sad that I can barely get out of bed every day. Now, Alex and I grew up in Florence. It's a really small town in North Alabama, and everybody knows everybody. And when you grow up with people, you're attached to them for life. And, we both went off to school and kept in touch, and, thanks to Facebook, that was a little bit easier. And I talked to Alex about a week before she died. She was living in Nashville with a friend of ours, Claudia, in a house with a lot of other artists. And I made plans to go visit them so we could catch up and, relive the glory days type thing. And I was so excited. So you can imagine my surprise that a short week later, I get a phone call that changed everything. A lot of people couldn't understand how I could be so affected by someone that wasn't my mom or my dad or my siblings or someone blood related to me, but Alex was my family. I've known her my whole life. Grew up together, good times, bad times. But it was horrible. It is one of the worst things I've ever been through, ever. So what happened with me almost immediately is what happens to everyone that loses someone to suicide. The irrational thoughts of, I should have done something. Like, I should have planned to go see her sooner. I should have called her to follow up. I should have checked in. I should have done something. In high school, like a lot of students today, sadly, Alex became a cutter. She harmed herself. And when she told me the first time, I was just like, stop doing that, you know? Just stop. You shouldn't do that. And she never brought it up again. So I thought that that was just a phase that she had grown out of. And when I talked to Claudia that day, when she told me that Alex had died, Claudia was going through the same thing. Claudia was away in Texas, and she talked to Alex the day that she died. And she said that Alex was having a manic episode. A manic episode coupled with alcohol and prescription drugs to try to ease a pain that it just cannot be eased. It's not possible. It's beyond her control. So I'm trying to console my one friend while I'm grieving the loss of my other friend. And internally, the cycle of self-blame started. I will never forget going home. The drive to Florence seemed like it took forever. And I wasn't able to make it to the visitation. I think I subconsciously did that because I couldn't handle it just yet, but I remember going to the funeral home, and because of the nature of her death, a self-inflicted gunshot wound, her casket was closed. And I went in the room, and it was just me and Alex. Like it had been a million times before, but this time it was different. This time, she wasn't coming back. I knew she wasn't coming back. And when we were little, we went to Catholic school. You know, we had religion class, and we would talk about heaven. We had to be like in 3rd grade with no real sense of what everything in life means, or especially not the afterlife. But I remember one time there were 3 of us that were best friends. We were talking about heaven, and we said, you know, save me a seat if you get there before I do. And I realized at that moment that that was my life, that that was my reality, that she was gone. I remember being at the church with all our other friends that we'd grown up with, and seeing her mom and her dad come in, just weak and frail, these vibrant people that I've known my entire life, just broken. And then I remember sitting in that church thinking, like, why didn't you do something? Like if I had told them, you know, in high school that she was kind of hurting herself, maybe she would have gotten help and we wouldn't be here and she'd still be here and all those things. And then, you know, I realized that Alex had a sickness. And her parents, in their darkest moment, had the courage in her obituary to say that. To say that she lost her battle with bipolar disorder. And I remember having this moment of clarity, realizing like how many people were going to be set free by that one statement. After the funeral, like I promised her mom that I would do whatever it took not to avenge her death, but just so that we can make sure that it didn't happen to anybody else. I was so broken. And so I took off this broken person, me, I took on the responsibility of, call and check on them, I gotta make sure they're okay. So I had to come out of my grief to make sure everybody else is okay, which was the worst thing that I could have done in that moment, and I realize that now. So, the days and weeks that followed were unbelievably dark. I slipped into a very dark depression. I had night terrors almost every night. Suicide is this dark thing that your mind can't wrap itself around. And it was just my night terrors, her needing help, and me not being able to help her. And when I could sleep, it was during the day with every light on. I missed a lot of work. I missed everything. I could just shut myself off from the world. Work suffered, everything suffered. I didn't talk to anybody, I didn't eat, or I'd overeat, just all those emotions you go through in just any stage of grief. A few months later, my job ended. So now, I lost my best friend, and I was unemployed. So things just got worse. Things just got progressively worse. For me personally, I would go to therapy, start going to group therapy to deal with my grief and my just hurt as far as the situation was concerned. But I wasn't dealing with a lot of the things that were going on inside me. But I kept my promise to her family. So when I make a promise, I keep them. And I became really involved with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We started the walk in our hometown, raised a lot of money, got everybody involved because her suicide made it real for a lot of people. In small towns, there are things you don't talk about. There are unmentionables. And suicide is right up there with all of them. Anything that makes people have to think too much or feel too much, nobody wants to talk about. But this was there. It happened. It was a real thing, and it wasn't going anywhere. So our efforts were extremely successful on that front. But internally, I was a mess. My world was falling apart. One of the last leading causes of suicide that they mentioned, again, was serious personal loss or a number of losses and defeats taken personally. And I guess it was the fall of 2013 that those types of thoughts they were reoccurring for me. Because it was like everything was falling apart and I couldn't do anything to control any of it. With that said, there's one more letter that Tony's going to read.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry to have done this to you. This is unbearable. This is the only way I could end my pain. Mom and Dad, you have given me such a beautiful life. I couldn't have dreamed of better parents than you. You did a great job. You are the best people I know. My actions are no reflection of you. Please let Sabrina, Sherry, and Mark know how much I love them. Britt, Bailey, and Malik, you are the loves of my life. The reasons I've held on so this long. Promise to keep in touch with my friends. They will need you as much as you need them.
I loved you, my family, more than life. I'm scared. I feel alone. Please pray for me. Pray that God has mercy on me. I've got to go now. I'll love you forever. Misha.
So that's where I was. And things just got progressively worse. Now, at the time, I was living with my boyfriend, and there were days where it was all that I could do to wake up. Like if I woke up and, got dressed, I was doing good. When you're in a situation like that, it is the most important thing to be around people. To be around people. But more than that, to be around people who can love you through something like that. And I wasn't. I'll never forget the day that he walked in, and I'm just sitting there like looking at a wall, just still broken. And he told me it was time to get the F over it. Now, don't hear me wrong. I wasn't alone. I have the best family ever. And my friends I love more than anything. So there were people. Everything around me, the things that had happened to me, forced all of that out of my mind. And all I saw were the defeats. All I saw was the negative. All I saw and heard were the negative things that were being said to me on a daily basis. That went on for about a year, until that relationship ended. And I was still in a very dark place. And on Labor Day, 2014, I went to a hot air balloon festival with one of my friends in Georgia. So much fun. Driving back to Birmingham, my cell phone rings. Now, again, there are highs and lows to depression. Every moment is not a bad moment. But every moment's not a good moment either. If you're lucky, you'll have a good day. And things will be so basic that if just nothing happens, if you don't cry, if you don't have a negative thought, that's a good day. And I had a good day. I was just like, yes, just get home, just get home. And my phone rings. And it's my ex. He just starts going on, telling me what I'm not, like all these negative things. Now, mind you, I'm still carrying around the weight of feeling responsible, like I didn't do enough to save my friends. So that's a failure. I'm still carrying around the weight of being unemployed, so that's another defeat. I'm carrying around the weight of all these negative things that I've been told I am, and that all of my circumstances indicate that I am. And now I'm just being just annihilated by somebody that I thought loved me. So there's a failed relationship on top of all of that. I was driving on I-65, and it was just some of the nastiest things that anyone's ever said to me. And I remember pulling over at mile marker 193. I was just like, this is it. Like, I can't do this anymore. It's too much pain to carry around. It's just too much. And usually, before, I would think about my nieces and my little brother, who are everything to me. And that would bring me back. But I was so far gone at this point that there was nothing that could bring me back. I remember sitting in my car and thinking about Alex and thinking about all these bad things that had happened and being like, and you're such a hypocrite, because I was involved with the AFSP raising awareness for suicide, you know, feeling bad about it because I wasn't being transparent enough with my own struggle. Not being rational enough to understand that I just wasn't there in my healing yet to share my story. So I had decided that right there on the side of the interstate, here's my car, here's oncoming traffic. I just decided that that was it. I mean, screaming, crying, hysterical. I mean, like crying, sobbing, begging God, please, like, why is this stuff happening? Why would you let these things happen to me? I thought you loved me. Like, I've been through so much. Like, nobody cared. I had never felt so alone in my life. And to this day, I still do not know how or why. But after I got all that out, I drove home. When I drove home, the phone rang again. I was at home. And I remember, like, pleading on the phone, like, just please, like, I don't have anything left. Just stop being so mean, like, so nasty to me. You're really just making me want to die. I was like, you don't understand that I'm not strong enough right now to be able to take this. And he says to me, you know, you've been saying this for a while now, so why don't you just go ahead and do it? So I was sitting on the kitchen floor with my laptop, and I typed that note up, and I had a knife, and I was wearing shorts, so my legs were exposed, and I took that knife and, like, dug it into my leg as far as it would go. And I mean, I had just tons of scratches, but the knife wouldn't penetrate my skin. There's no reason, because I was trying. And I called my mom and dad. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. Telling them bye. That I couldn't do it. I couldn't live like that anymore. And you can imagine being ripped from your sleep by your child that's hours away from you, that's telling you that they're about to end their life. My mom was hysterical. And that was the most painful thing. Because you're operating out of 2 brains at that point. You're operating out of this, you know, like this Christian brain that knows that, you know, like life is a gift and you shouldn't do that, and just have faith and pray and you'll get through it. And then there's this other real, like your real life that's going through all these things, and nobody's there but you in your head, and nobody knows what you're going through. And the thing is, like, most people, when they make a decision to end their lives, they do it. But it's like subconsciously almost, like I was just prolonging it. You know what I mean? Like, most people don't hear their parents' reaction because it just happens and then it's too late. But to hear my precious mom like that just killed me. And I hung up the phone. My dad called me back a million times, and he was like, I'm going to call the police. Like, please don't do this. Like, what are we going to tell, like, Malik? Like, how are we supposed to explain this? Like, please, just pray, just pray. And I was like, Dad, I can't. Doesn't hear me. I sat there, legs all scratched up and just feeling low, like there's nowhere else lower for me to go. And then I just prayed. It was kind of like, I wasn't giving God an ultimatum, but I basically said, like, God, like, this is it. Like, I'm there. I don't want to do this, but I can't be in pain like this anymore. If you help me, if you get me out at this moment, for the rest of my life, I'll try to save other people. I'll do whatever I have to save other people. And then, like, I fell asleep right there on the kitchen floor, woke up, right beside me, everything was just like right there. And it was jarring to wake up and see, everything that had happened. And that's the thing about depression and suicidality, is that if you can just get yourself to understand that you just relax, just go to sleep, wake up tomorrow, things will be better, but sometimes it's just not that easy. So that's that. That was my rock bottom. And I don't know exactly how much longer after that. I was just at home one day and I was like, I haven't talked to Tony in a while. So I called her and we caught up. I don't know how it happened, but I ended up telling her what I just told y'all. And she was like, look, you need to come to Beloved. I was like, Tony, I'm just not there. I'm not ready. Like, me and God are not at this good place. She was like, you need to come. And then she was like, you know what, you are going to come. And I can come get you, or you can come by yourself, but you're going to come. So I came one Friday night. I really wish I could remember the date, but I don't. And I was just blown away. And that was literally like my first step to healing. So when I came, Tori had these envelopes on the back for offer. And they were like 1 through 100. And you were supposed to pick the amount you wanted to donate. And I picked 2 envelopes. I picked envelopes that total. It was just confirmation. Her doing that, not just being set up that way. It was something tangible that I could give to God to show him that I didn't want that. And it was a huge turning point to setting me free. I started getting the weight off me. And through all that, like, my poor friends, bless them, they have flown to be by me when I felt like I had nobody. And after that, like, I was really trying. And I was like, get this together. And then I found in my Bible, let's backtrack a little bit. On my 30th birthday, I was driving back from New Orleans with Yolanda. And we were talking, and she was asking about life, like your friends do. And we were talking, and got talking about, like, Bible verses and stuff like that. And I told her, I was like, I don't really know Bible verses. I was born and raised Catholic, and that I just don't know them like that. I wish I did. But anyway, I saw her for dinner a few weeks later, and she gave me this sheet of paper that she had talked to her husband about it, and he had made me a list of these scriptures because he wanted me to have something to hang on to. So coming to Beloved and then finding that, it's just God. There's nothing but God. I mean, that was months before. Months. And I'd that in there. And you know, things start happening to affirm you, to let you know that I told you I'm going to get you out of this. I promised you I'd get you out of this. But, you know, things happen, but they didn't seem as huge as they did before. And that's when I realized that I was starting to heal. And it all culminated when I had this dream. I had a dream that it was just me, and I wasn't at a funeral home, but I was trying to carry Alex's coffin by myself. One person carrying this massive coffin alone. And in the dream, like, I'm just struggling and crying and screaming for help, and nobody's coming, and suddenly the struggle stopped. And talking about it in group therapy the next day, I realized that God was telling me, like, you've taken this thing on that you weren't intended to have. Definitely not by yourself. And so that's when that struggle stopped. I was able to let her go and miss her, but not assume so much of that responsibility that was never mine. And then test the faith just after that, like with Robin Williams dying, and it's a phenomenon. It's like when you're overexposed to something that you struggle with, the chances of you regressing or relapsing are so much greater. And that would happen to me. You know, you hear about this. I mean, it just breaks my heart because I know what that's like, you know. But then my purpose, like my pain started to shape up and have purpose, you know. The walk that we had started, like the money we raised was just so much greater. Like, her mom is in a better place. Her dad is not well, but he's coming along, and a lot of the money we're raising is for programs to help people who still struggle with the loss. So it's like I'm seeing these things still have some weight, but I'm seeing like the progress, you know, and that helped. But it wasn't until I went to the Woman Thou Art Loose conference in Atlanta that it was all gone. Like, not a plug for them, but if you can go to something like that that's like transformational, you really should. And the way all that happened was nothing but God, but it just changed me, and I let it all go. And I had this like new lease on life, and started trusting God again, and things started happening. And you know, I heard a couple of the ladies pray for restoration, and God restored absolutely every single thing, and then some. So I know that to be certain. I still have bad days. I do. But they're not as bad. And I know that I'm not by myself anymore. I never was, but I know that I'm not by myself. The day Tori emailed me about coming here, I had just left a breakfast meeting with the director for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I was like, yeah, we're going to make all this change, raise awareness, do all these great things. And then I saw that email. I was like, well, she had texted or messaged me and asked me for my email address. And I was like, I wonder what that is. I kept going, and then I saw the email, and I was like, I can't. And I had this moment where I was like attacked from every side. Like, you don't know the Bible. You don't know. You're not equipped to talk to anybody about anything. Like, these are like real voices, you know. Then a louder voice was like, you promised me.
Amen.
And I don't make promises that I don't keep, which is what brought me here today. And like, nobody nobody in this room has anything figured out. You don't. You're all great, beautiful, but you don't have everything figured out. And like, I did myself such a disservice by trying to make everybody around me and myself think that I did. And that put so much more pressure on me. You know, worried about how my friends are, what they're going to think of me if I tell them. There are days when I can't move. Like, my best friends, my real best friends, didn't know all the things that I was going through. You know, like, I could rally for them, I could be there for them at the drop of a hat, but when it came to myself, like, I would not let them be there for me. You know, and you need people. Everybody needs people. And as women, that's just something that we put on ourselves, that just like that coffin I was trying to carry in my dream, we're not intended to do that. No. Like, there's going to be strife and bad days in this life, but nobody has to go through it alone. Nobody. And that's just one of the things that I want y'all to know. Like, and when I responded to Tori, I was just like, you know what? This is so much bigger than you. This is so much bigger than you. And it's at that moment that I realized that it was, like, I consciously made the decision, like, if everything I went through, and like I said, this year's been hard, and I'm just thankful to have made it out alive, literally. But if I went through all that so that one person in here could live, could save somebody else, could treat somebody else with a little bit more compassion and understanding, then I'd do it all over again. And that's saying a lot. But I would, and I mean that sincerely. And Alex, you know, she was so amazing. And she didn't leave a letter, but she created this survey that we realized later was her letter. And she had just had a few points that I'm going to share with you. Well, I'm going to share a couple of them, but one of the first one was like, live with no regrets. You know? And it was almost like this, I'm not able to save myself, but I want you to have the best life. You, my friends, my family, to have the best life that you can. And here's what I figured out so far. You know, live with no regrets. Do everything that you want to do. Society and social are derivatives of each other. All people really need around them is other people. So, like, do that. Surround yourself with people who affirm you. With people that you're not scared to ugly cry in front of, which clearly I'm not afraid in front of anybody. Sorry. Not sorry. But, you know, like, do those things for yourself. Like, if you have a bad day, like, call somebody. Because there's a serious battlefield of the mind. Like, that's a real thing. Like, there's a war going on in each of us. Christian or not, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. The devil's always trying to get somebody. So surround yourself with good people. And like I said, stop acting like we have it all together, because we don't, and nobody's expected to. You know, there's no flashing light that goes off when you've got it all figured out. We're all just going to live never knowing if we have it all figured out, and that's just got to be fine with everybody. Then she said, life is a miserable fluke. The fact that any one of us is alive, just by the numbers alone, is a ridiculously unfathomable circumstance. Instead of lamenting the drudgery of it all, keep your chin up and explore the options, because in reality, they're pretty endless. So, like, live your best life. Live your best life. Live it completely. Let go of the past. Like, and I stand here as the poster child for carrying around decades of just crap and things that happen. but it's the best feeling in the world when you get on the other side of it all. And my parents, when I would talk to them about how I was feeling, you know, they would just be like, just pray about it. Like, where's your faith? Where's your faith? You gotta depend on your faith. Okay, that's true, but faith without works is dead. You know, like, you're given these tools, you're given these people, you're given, you know, great verses and all these resources to help yourself. You know, professionals who specialize in mental disorders, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. Like, equip yourself with what you need to get through. And then just don't be hard on yourself. You're okay. Everything is okay. And, like, if it's not, like, you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what's not okay, and you'll get rid of it and do what you need to do, or God will get rid of it for you. And it would be in your best interest to listen.
Amen.
You know, I wish I had some great Oprah, what I know for sure moment right now, but I really just don't, you know? Like, me being here is like it's healing for me. Like, it's one of my healing steps. And, like, somebody in here, I don't know who, but I woke up this morning and it was just, like, sat straight up in the bed, like, there's going to be somebody there who needs this. So you need to get up and pull it together and be ready to deliver. So whoever you are, like, I've been praying for everybody that was going to be here. And whoever that person is, like, I hope you got what you needed. And if I can help anybody in any way, whether it be connecting you with a professional that can help you further in ways that I'm not equipped to, or you just need somebody to talk to that gets it, I'm happy to do that. They know how to get in touch with me. I'm happy to do that. That's really all I have. Thank you for letting me share. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions about anything? Yes.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you for sharing that. That's hard. I know it's hard. I've been there too, and it's hard to open yourself up like that. So I just want you to know that I really appreciate that, and I know everybody else in this room appreciates it too. We may not be saying a lot, but we're listening,